Tyler Gobble.
The Tyler Gobble?
He was a contestant on Survivor 3. Let's see, what else? Oh, his first book will be out tomorrow from Penguin Books. And then his second book will be out from the University of Pittsburgh Press next Friday. And then his third book will be out sometime in July from Wesleyan Press. So you can pre-order all those at TylerGobblesAwesome.com. Alright, anyways, so I'm Tyler Gobble, obviously, and I'm not going to read a poem that I wrote. So this first one is by a poet named Heather Crystal, who's really important to me. She's had a baby. I don't know why that's relevant. Anyway, it's called My Enemy. I'm not going to read it like her. I have a new enemy. He is so good looking. Here is a photograph of him in the snow. He is in the snow, and so is the photo. I put it there because I hate him, and because it is always snowing in the photograph. My enemy is acting like there are no neighbors, but there are always neighbors. They just might be far away. He is 100% evil and good looking. He looks good in his parka in the snow. If you asked, he would call it a helmet. All he ever does is lie. He does not breathe or move or glow. He is not that kind of man. It is not that kind of snow. So that's better than any poem I'm going to read. So I really want to read that because I just finished a project where for a while I got tired of writing Tyler Gobble poem. In essence, like I feel like I kept writing the same poem over and over. Right, so I was just like, oh, this is Tyler Gobble poem. And so I started writing like Heather Crystal poem or Lane Ransom poem or friends of mine. I started trying to write poems as them because I was reading so much of their work. And so I wanted to read that for that reason, but also because the first poem I'm going to read is called Tyler Gobble poem. How it is and what I'm wearing. On a clear day, you can see forever. Long johns, because on this day in history once, I was cold. For a poet, they say, you sure are literal. I was not particle to be particular or even practical, and certainly not paracrine. Literature is ancient, and so are my palest ancestors, even the ones who preferred to live in Native American society. Which came first, the shunning or the acceptance that these are the stalks I'll be eating until my death? Not the call and response into the forest, but the call for a response. The phone ringing and the other end singing, tell me your answer now, please. I need this. Will we get married? Vegan cheese or 17 meat pizza? Who really pulled the trigger? What? I was having sex, but could only think of a year. It was 1968. A birthday cake shaped like a hearse. Uncle called it a light-hearted joke. Sometimes it is impossible to be louder, so it is necessary to bring your own karaoke machine. The only bird watching I've done is those Sundays after slaughter when the latch wasn't best closed and the chickens, they'd flutter about the yard like the last clouds of May. Some we could catch with our sprinting. Others would have to wait, snagged from a branch, or if we were lucky, the bucket seat in a rusted Ford northwest corner of this yard. Colony collapse disorder is when it all starts dying, but no one knows why. Woo! Woo. All right. So that project, right, of writing poems as other people is called Other People's Poems, also known as OPP. But so then there's a full-length thing that I'm working on called Other People's Poems and Other Poems. And this one's from that, and it's called Other People's Pets. Okay. We feed these critters, but they don't feed us. What's up with that? PetSmart is a terrible instrument for not being sad, like how the vacuum fish in the aquarium make horrible housekeepers, hard as they try. After her leg got lopped off, I drew Grandma a picture of our dog orbiting like a furry moon around her face to prove she was still a worthy planet. Truth is, pets seem destined to either do us in or make our arms so warm from cuddling we can't even stand it. As a child, I was obsessed with cats. How if you squeezed real tight, they hardly existed. Anyway, so now I'm gonna. I also did that poem because Lane and I got a cat recently, and I've changed so much. I obviously hated cats at one point in my life, and I hated pets. I thought they were silly because I couldn't eat them. But now I love cats, which is weird. But anyways, that's what that poem's about. This one is one of the first poems I was writing when I first moved here, and then it sat forever. And I realized that, what I needed and what changed it was this week I started teaching a Badger Dog workshop, which is creative writing workshop summer camps for kids. And I'm working with 3rd and 4th graders. I know, why would anyone let me hang out with their 3rd and 4th grader? But it was wacky. It's been wacky and it's so wonderful. And it took that to get me to write better and finish this poem. So I finished this poem thanks to those 8 kids, and they're amazing. So yeah. It's called The Bolt Fastening the Barbed Wire to the Fence, a Letter to Keith. In Texas with my bacon, I want a lot of horses and few to hear me, Keith. More people than I ever expected are skeptical of propane. What about you, Keith? Keith, when I was 14, I caught my black shorts on a fence, and I'm not sure I ever unhooked myself fully. Are you feeling hooked, Keith? Like a mothball, you can trust me to bring you closer to death, but first, with a rousing afternoon of bingo. I was running from a man who promised to kick my ass. From where you're sitting, Keith, you must think, gracious, I bet this poor young Tyler got quite the walloping, strung up by his britches like that. No, Keith, thanks, I did not. Another important image, my best friend on a moped with a Bowie knife. It was cold, Keith. My face destined for flattened and raw, like bacon, unable to consume bacon. I would have feared bacon for inexplicable reasons for decades, but it didn't happen. The ass kicking, the beep boop of the moped sooner, somehow flooding the angry fellow away. Which came first, the best friend or the Bowie knife? Maybe there was a sympathy inside the angry fella, his muscles giving a tiny applause for the courage and the loyalty, and a little bit the graceful way I shimmied there hanging from the threads. Like a spider who mistook the baby hawk in his web for a beefed up moth, and here comes the mother. Spiders sometimes close up shop, dismantle their own web, you know, and I don't think I've ever heard of a hawk doing that. Makes you think. This man made the choice to get a swastika tattooed on his hand, and once went to jail on Halloween after a scuffle with his father when his father made his own choice to scale back and pass out mini Snickers instead of the full-size guys. Or maybe he saw a phantom in eerie cloud in the sky. Keith, it is best if you don't ask how I knowed so much. How I knew you planned the train trip across America, though you knew it wouldn't happen. 6 weeks with Kathy, and you couldn't leave. You're in charge of the grocery list. Which fruits are necessary to buy organic? Berries, some health nuts say, and you agree. Keith, I know you've seen ugly people with nice abs take vodka shots out of raspberry divots. They're mostly water. The berries and the people, but not bananas, Keith. Too thick of skin, it is necessary, and for this and many other reasons, I am mostly relieved you have sex with my ex-stepmom. Keith, I don't even have an ex-stepmom. Keith, she did all she could, that trek through the mountains, 106 pies, impossible moments where we both fit on the love seat despite our intense skepticism. She will demonstrate the best methods to remove the colors you sweat into your white t-shirts. Keith, turning things yellow like fish eggs. I'm sorry, I just had to say it. And from the lake here, I expected mosquitoes with jackhammer tongues, ferocious in this heat. But to be honest with you, Keith, I have not been bitten once. One theory is the millions of bats anchored under the Congress Street Bridge, pretending to sleep all day until they know their audience is as big as it can bulge. They emerge, paralleling the shiny lake, and scarf bugs until the crowd dies. Keith, what else are they supposed to do? Keith, what else are we supposed to do? What is amazing? What is a hot ham sandwich? The things we do for love. Eat sushi, tinker with the El Camino every evening, sell your drum kit. How loud is too loud? Keith, can you even hear me? The last painting I saw, I swear it was a kid playing baseball, but no, a pretty gal, never to be seen again, told me it was of a whippersnapper who found a tiny skull, was chucking it into the cornfield. He was terribly afraid of questions, she said. She said, we have access to the same amount of stars. And then I never saw her again. Sometimes, Keith, I hope to move to a forest with as many deer as trees. I will drink bourbon and attempt to count the deer, and when I fail, no one will care, not even me. We have access to the same amount of stars, I will say, and to the scuffed up skin of a twig. I can't escape the questions always coming back to me, Keith. A question is, if there are no others, who will help me? At the family reunion in '01, no one thought I'd make out with my cousin, so no one was prepared when I did. My dad was terribly embarrassed, but not as much as when I caught a splinter from the picnic table, several layers into my nubby thumb skin, and I couldn't bear to cut it out. Even after he'd slid me the pocket knife and demonstrated the proper method on a hot dog bun, he stabbed with a toothpick. That generous man even pointed to a tree on the other side of the volleyball pit, a door to close as I whined through my business. No one would see my wince, he promised. But they did see me shuffle my feet and fumble the pocket knife. They did see my Kathy with a pair of tweezers. Another question is, do I have the right to be pissed off? I spent 20 hours on the highway cutting across America and didn't see one damn eagle. And when I got here, the real cowboy on the real dusty trail turned out to be an actuarial science major cutting through the Dry Bones Park. Another question is a blue button sewn onto the pocket of a red t-shirt unfashionable, or is it just me? In the race to see who will get a parade thrown for him first, your odds are better. You live in a small town with rushed out the door kids, and there goes a rumor you know CPR. I wrote this letter, which puts me at a disadvantage neither of us can measure, though we both know it is there. Like that gravity that holds a youngin's body to the pool deck every year as a teen tries her mightiest to make him wake up. Oh, and the paper clips I poked into my gums have returned to haunt me. My nightly rents all crimson. Which do you think is correct, Keith? Is it the gums that haunt, or the pale windsock of my teen self? You knew me, Keith, before I even knew how to bleed every eve. Take a look around and see what remains. Here is my lantern, and here is my hobby horse. It's patriotic, and Mike gave it to me sweating over antique mahogany in Ohio. Keith, do you know what I'm talking about when I say all riled up? Let me use it in a sentence. You get all riled up and fly toward that friend of yours whose mama didn't teach him better, and that moment before you clobber him, you realize you'll regret it. This pounce, the subsequent punch, if and only if one of you comes out with a lifetime of cauliflower ear. But Keith, isn't all that long past possible? I couldn't stop wearing long socks with shorts, even if that's what I wanted. The heat is immense with a serious case of conviction, but a little underwhelming in terms of distraction. My full concentration on this breakfast taco. That little slice of maturity that comes with plucking the 4 hairs, lollygagging in the space where you frown most. Keith, would you kiss a hog if people applauded you for it? Would you resuscitate it? Keith, I have a date with Destiny, this girl I met online, and this time maybe I will show up. A white shirt when it's raining was not a good decision, but I was promised more time before the downpour. Timing is not everything, but it is most things. The moment you log into the lesbian chat room, the wait for the noodles to soften. It'll take a lot of prayers just to save my soul, so I gotta hurry up before I grow too old or whatever. I have never been overseas, but am hoping destiny buys me a plane ticket in the spring. But what does this have to do with you, Keith? It doesn't, but thanks for listening. My only advice for you is to prepare. No, not for the worst, but for what happens on Sundays with Kathy, because it will, Keith. Whether or not you rinse the knife in scalding water, the ice cream cake will get divided, and nothing will explain why we both smell like chicken broth on a regular morning in August, 1,000 miles apart. Thank you.